So there's the two diffs. They're pretty similar, just the output flanges are different. So there's the one from the auto, where all the bolt holes are spaced out equally. And then here's the one off the manual. You can see they're kind of paired up. Those two are close together, those two are close together, and then those two are close together. So I should be able to use a pry bar and pry these off and swap them over. So while I'm not under the car, I might as well show you the pry bars I was using to get the prop shaft off. So when you look at the little notch on the prop shaft, it's quite a wide hole. So with your standard pry bar, the tip's quite fine. So it was too fine for the gap, the notch. So probably what you want to do is maybe cut a bit off. I'll get a bit closer. You're going to focus. There we go. So, it's gone again. Anyway, I'd probably try and cut a bit of the end of the pry bar off until you get to thicker bits. Like that, what I did was I was able to get two in next to each other, just to make it the tip a bit wider, and then lever off of the other pry bar. So that's what I did, and it took a couple of goes with penetrating fluid as well. So yeah, this one's probably, the little one's, I don't know, about 12-14 mm wide at the end, and the bigger one's probably 18-20 mm, and then the little one's about 8 inches long, and then the big one's probably about 14 inches. But yeah, I'm sure any pry bars will do, is just getting something thick enough for the little notch that they're supposed to fit in. Right, time to put some oil in. So I've drained it already. This is what I've used in the past. Some Castrol Syntrax long life, as long as it's something 75W90. I know there's a different one if you've got the limited slip diff, but if you've just got a regular diff, and I believe it's this oil. So we've got our HW14. So the fill hole's not actually that high, it's there. And the drain one is just out of view, right at the bottom of the side, on the right hand side. So yeah, you don't actually put that much oil in it. So I haven't done that up very tight. What I use is one of these. So you just fill that with oil. And away you go. There's some torque settings there. So you can see for the oil filler and drain plug, 70 Newton meters or 52 foot-pounds of pork. Got food on the brain, 52 foot-pounds of torque. There's a few others on the other page. I'll check them up as well. This is from the Haynes manual. Back to the rear camber arms. What all this started for. So that's how I've gone about putting the left rear one on. The right one was obviously done before I took the diff out. So I think because the drive shafts were still attached, it was pushing the wheel hub outwards, so it made it easier to connect up the camber arm. With this side, now the diff's gone and the drive shaft's not attached, it was really difficult. I couldn't get that bottom part where it's attached, I couldn't get that further enough outwards. So I've got the camber arm set on the shortest distance at the moment. I couldn't get anywhere near. So what I ended up doing is I disconnected the shock, as you can see there, and just dropped the spring. Just dropped the I don't know, I forget what this is called. The arm that the spring sits on. So the spring's dropped out of its carrier there, and it's given me. So I've had to use a trolley jack, and you can see like I've got a deep socket then, which allows me to slide the end of the camber arm up at the same time, and I've just jacked it up until I can get the bolt in. That seemed to work. So these are the specs, the torque settings. These camber arms connect to the subframe, so I'm going to use this 77 and 57. There's nothing about control arm to the wheel hub. So we've got the shock absorber torque settings, and that's it. So I'll have to just use my own judgment, I think, for the ones that aren't in here, which is odd. I don't know why you wouldn't be in here. I'm good to put the diff in now. Just hope it goes a bit smoother than when I took it out. Alright, so what have we done so far? I've put the diff mounting bolts in. I haven't torqued them up yet. When I was putting the diff in, I found it's easiest to put a bolt in the back first, just to take the weight, and you have to kind of lift up to line up these bolts with the holes. A bit of a pain in the ass, but I got there in the end. I've put all these prop shaft bolts in. Need to torque them up. Same with the drive shafts. Need to torque them up. These can be a bit of a pain to line up. That's right. Once you've got one in, and you've got these three brackets as well that go between pairs of bolts. Taking the string off the drive shafts, put the anti-roll bar back up. Here's the torque settings from the Haynes manual for the drive shaft bolts, and then here's the prop shaft. When you're torquing the prop shaft up and the drive shaft, actually, you have to do what you did before and put screwdrivers either side to stop the discs from spinning. So I just jacked up the subframe so I can take those two bolts that go through the subframe. Sorry, two nuts. So I can put back on this bracket. So I think, sorry about that noise, the screaming shits in the background, they're not mine. So yeah, like I said at some point earlier, when I've seen other people do this, the subframe stays where it is when they undo that bolt. I don't quite know why that is, because mine wanted to drop. This makes sense to me, but anyway, there we are. So yeah, I've jacked the subframe up. Let's get that bracket back on. There's the rear subframe torques. There we are. So mine appears to be M12. And there we have the Diff torques. Don't know why it says front bolt singular and rear bolts plural, because it's 2 front bolts and 1 rear bolt. Okay, so I've put everything back together. There's that bracket back on. I did find that you had to put these little 13mm bolts in first, because if you just went straight for the 2 bigger ones, these were out of alignment. So yeah, do the little ones first, then the 2 big ones. Put the little heat shield back on, and then just put the 2 brackets that hold the exhaust up, put them back on. Torqued everything up. Okay, so it's another day again. Rather surprisingly, it's taken longer than expected. So today's job is to adjust the camber with the new adjustable camber arms. So I'm just lined up the old ones roughly, so I can, because I have to, originally I set them the same as the old ones, but I had to wind them in to better actually fit them. So I've just held the old ones underneath, roughly seeing how much I need to wind these out. So I'm going to do that and then get the wheels on, drop it down, and do some measurements, see how we're doing. So it's going to be a case of loosening the nut at either end, and then just these particular ones, it's just sticking a 24 mil spanner on this part, and you just turn it to wind it out, and then when you're happy, then you just wind the 2 nuts in to lock the centre bit in tight. Initially I've got 1 degrees on the rear left. So on the right hand side I've initially got probably 1.5 degrees. You can hopefully see that I've got that bang on 2 degrees on the rear left. I'll give that a go, see what it's like at the track. Just got to do the right hand one. You don't need to wind it all that much to make a difference. Probably only took about 1 turn to go from 1 to 2 degrees. So the exhaust is back on. Must admit, these 2 degrees, it's not going to probably show up very well on camera, but those 2 degrees look quite a lot of negative camber. Could just be a bit of an illusion. I hope that was of use for someone. I can't actually go and try it out yet because I've got to replace the alternator and battery first. So kind of a bit of an accidental long job because I wasn't planning on changing the diff. It's only because you can't take one of those camber arm bolts out without loosening the diff. So I thought, sorry, as soon as I've got the diff sitting there, might as well put it on. We think of any words of wisdom. Definitely, I reckon in hindsight it would have been helpful to take one of my pry bars and grind the end until it was a lot thicker. Probably needs to be about 3 or 4 mil thick at the end, so it probably fits in the notch to ping the prop shaft out. So once I got that out, it wasn't too bad. Thanks for watching part 2. Part 3 will hopefully be coming pretty soon. We'll get a bit of an idea on how much of a difference the diff has made at the track. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.